welcome to the course Augmenting Design Thinking with Human Computer Interaction. So, today we'll continue with the design thinking phases. The second phase, define. So, in the last lecture, we had looked at the first stage of design thinking phase, which is empathizing phase, and today we'll take up define. So, define is the second stage of the design thinking process, and this step involves synthesizing the research finding from the empathize phase and to articulate the the needs that we have discovered and to prepare a clear problem statement or a point of view. Now, the goal here is to frame the right problem to solve and to ensure that it is the human centered approach that we are employing here. Now, why is the define step important? So, there are several reasons for that. First, being that it clarifies the challenge, so it helps the team understand the core problems. So, like we discussed in the last lecture, that there are wants and there are needs, and so we have to understand the core problem that we want to solve as a team. So, this particular step, the defining step, helps us articulate that problem very clearly. Also, it helps us focus on the real need rather than look at the assumptions that may be there. The second, advantage or importance of this particular step is that it guides the ideation process. So it guides the team and gives it a particular way in which to move forward, so that we are not scattering our energy but we are together moving forward to solve a problem. So we can also think of it like going at war with a certain problem, so we should know what exactly the enemy is that we are wanting to fight. So that is another advantage, and also aligns the team, so the team has a shared purpose. So it also encourages collaboration, because the design process is a team effort, and it different people different team members will be bringing something new to the table. So when we all have a shared view, then it really helps. So this is how the design thinking second stage define is important. So now some of the key activities in this step, few of them are to synthesize the findings. So review the data that we have collected in the empathize stage and identify the patterns or themes or insights that may be arising out of that particular stage. Then another method that we use is designing the persona. So here we are creating the fictitious character of the user, so that we are able to see their behaviors, needs, pain points, and the particular demographic. So that is another key activity. And then craft the problem statement. So here we have to formulate a clear and concise problem statement, and it has to be, of course, user centered and also actionable. So something that one can take an action on. So that is something we have to keep in mind while we are crafting this particular design statement. And finally, create a point of view. So this point of view is when we combine the insights and needs to frame the problem uniquely. So we will be looking at all of these, the problem definition, defining the problem, and the point of view in the next few slides as an example, so that we get more clarity as to how these are to be designed. So hearing about them is one thing, but then also that how do we practically implement these. Now, some of the other tools and techniques that are useful for the define step are affinity diagrams, wherein we group and organize the ideas and insights. So we tabulate them. So we are able to, under different heads, categorize the problem. So we are breaking into smaller issues, and we are able to identify the relationships between some of these and also the patterns that are generating out of it. Then empathy maps we've already seen, and the next is the how might we questions. So how might we questions are really important because they transform the challenge into an opportunity. So the way we frame this how might we question, we will see this statement also as an example in the next few slides. So these are really helpful because now out of the negativity, we are going into the positive aspect and taking up the challenge to solve the problem at hand. So, just to put it all together, that some of the best practices that are there for the define step. So, first is stay user centered. So, we have to remain oriented towards the user, and again, not making any assumptions or any kind of generalizations. One thing that may work for a certain community or a user may not work for the other community or the user. So, we have to keep that in mind. And then we have to be specific and actionable. So, we have to, like I said earlier, that the final statement should be clear and actionable, and it should not be vague or broad. So, I'll just give a small example. So, if we have to, for example, a physical example of a tangible tool. So, if we have to say scoop ice cream from the bowl, and we want to redesign a mechanism, a tool to scoop out the ice cream, because the ones that we have, they are not as efficient as we would like them to be. So when we are framing or the problem, or we're defining the problem, so there are three ways in which we can define it. There are certain aspects of this problem that we already know. So one is that this equipment or tool will be handheld mechanical tool. The other is that it will be used for scooping out the ice cream. So these are some of the facts that we are aware of. Now if we were to have if we were to frame a problem, and if we say that design a tool for scooping, so if that is the statement that we are making, then tool could be anything. A tool could be a mechanical tool, it could be an electric tool, it could be a small tool, a big tool. So there is no real clarity on this tool. And scooping could be done with many things. We can scoop ice cream also, and we can scoop earth also during construction. So this kind of a statement is very vague and too broad for one to take any action on. And on the other hand, if we say that we have to design a tool, a handheld tool to scoop out ice cream, so this is too focused of a statement. So here we already have gotten a visual picture, because we know what ice cream looks like, and we know what the standard scooping out mechanism, the tool, looks like. So then it really broadens our scope of design. So we have to keep in mind that the statement needs to be somewhere in between, wherein it gives us enough scope to be creative. On the other hand, it gives us some sort of a context. So that is why this define phase becomes very important, because because the whole coming up process, the next few steps will be all determined by the statement that we have come up with at this stage. And of course, we have to collaborate and iterate. So we have to keep on refining and iterating this problem statement as we go. So we may see that it is undergoing certain small minor changes as we are getting more insights. So that can be incorporated as we go along. So you have to be open minded for that as well, that we don't have to cling on to the first or the only statement that we have come up with. So now let us see that how to define. So now, of course, the first step here is to identify the audience. So this involves understanding who are the users, and this includes the demographics, the behaviors and contexts. Now something that works in the context of Europe may not work in the context of our country, and vice versa. So for that reason, or not only on a global level, but even something that works in our country for someone in the town may not work on the village level, or which works in the city may not work in the town level. So we have to understand who is our audience, and for that reason the context becomes really important. Then the next is to reveal the needs. So this involves uncovering the underlying requirements and desires of users through observations and through other research methods. So this helps us, uncover both the explicit and implicit needs. So the needs that can be seen, that are very, very clear to us, and there are some needs that may not be clear to us, and we may have to, dig deeper to in order to unearth these needs. So the needs, revealing the needs becomes highly important. And then articulate insights. So this step involves synthesizing the research findings into clear and actionable statements. So sometimes the user may not be articulate what kind of needs they have or what kind of challenges they are facing. So that needs to be articulated. And these insights, these articulated insights, they serve as a foundation for generating ideas and guiding the design process and achieving our user centric in the user centric direction. Then next is writing a detailed problem statement. So this involves clearly defining the challenge that is to be addressed, including the context, the affected users, and the impact of the problem. So the impact could be small or large, irrespective of the kind of problem we are dealing with. So we have to put keep these things in context. So we will be looking at an example of this as well. So when the problem statement is well defined, it is well crafted, then it provides the focus and direction for the design process to the team, and there is more clarity in the whole design process. Then the next is discussion. So this is where we are engaging with the stakeholders. So it is like a teamwork. Now we saw in the previous class the example of the water tank, and of the community we saw the different stakeholders. So each and every stakeholder has a different way of looking at the problem or a different understanding of the problem. They all may have different insights that can make the whole discussion more holistic in terms of understanding the main problem. So discussion becomes a very important point because we get all these diverse viewpoints and it fosters a shared vision, which leads to a more comprehensive and innovative solution that we are aiming for. The next is our pains and gains. So now identifying pains and gains is really important because these are the negative and positive aspects of the user experience. So where the pain is the frustration or the challenges that the user is facing, and the gains are the positive aspects where we see the benefits and the positive outcomes that are there. So they help us in creating solutions that are that are can take care of the pain points that we have observed, and also they can enhance the overall output, the whole problem solving process. Then how might we statement? So these statements, it's like a question which frames the design challenge in an optimistic manner. So like I mentioned earlier, that it converts the challenge into an opportunity. And lastly, we have the point of view that we have uh, also discussed earlier. So now let's see this with the help of an example here. So I've brought the same example of the tank delivering water to the community. We saw this in the empathy stage in the previous lecture. So here we can see the detailed problem statement which says that the residents suffer from a lack of dependable and affordable access to potable water, which leads to health problems and wasted time spent collecting water. Furthermore, it is imperative to enhance awareness and education regarding water purification and cleanliness standards. So this is a statement which is covering all the aspects that we had discussed, in the previous lecture as well, that there is no access and the health problems, the time that is spent, which is wasted waiting, and also in addition to all of that, also that there is no awareness and education regarding this water purification and the hygiene that should be maintained when we are using water for our daily needs. Then the how might we statement. So we can see the problems in the detailed problem statement, and now we are converting these problems into opportunities by stating this how might we statement, which says how might we provide cost effective, dependable and sustainable supply of water while also imparting knowledge on water purification and cleanliness protocols. So this is ending with a question mark, because this is a question that we are asking ourselves, the team is asking, we are inquiring this question, that how can we do this. So we can see here that all of the points that are in the detailed problem statement, all of them are mentioned here in the how might we statement. And then the point of view statement here says that residents need a sustainable and reliable way to access clean drinking water, as the existing alternatives are either inaccessible or too expensive, leading to health problems and wasted time. So now here you can see the example. This is just a very basic example derived from the basic understanding of this problem. It is not an in-depth research that has been conducted, but just kind of a surface level understanding, so that these points can be shared across, that how do we develop a detailed problem statement, how do we create a how might we statement, and then how do we create a point of view statement. So now let's see the next step in the design thinking process, which is the develop phase. So now we have a well defined problem statement with us, right? Now in the develop phase, we may be inclined to come up with solutions. So for example, for the same example that we just saw, the water scarcity problem, so we may think of coming up with a solution like, how can the water be delivered through the road transportation network, or through railway, through air, or maybe we should teach them about the rain water harvesting system. So there can be several of these ideas that can be developed. So this is how we'll come up with the development of the solution, taking the definition or the problem definition forward. So in this phase, the phase identification of problem to address the solution is linking identified problems to potential solutions. So we have come up with some problems that we have identified, and now we have to connect with the possible solutions. So for example, if one of the major issue is the long distance residents travel to collect the water, so then solutions like setting up water kiosks at certain distances, or scheduling the delivery of water at regular intervals. So some of those possible solutions we can come up with. So the focus is on ensuring each proposed idea directly addresses the core issues that we have identified in the defined step. So we also have to keep in mind that this develop phase is iterative and divergent process. So which means that we are continuously refining and expanding upon the multiple cycles of brainstorming and feedback. So we are taking feedback and brainstorming, and the cycle is going on. So in the water delivery project, the initial concept may be sketched out and discussed, and then we may take the solution to the stakeholders and take their feedback, and then we may go back to the first step, which is where we were generating concepts, and we may come up with newer concepts, or we may modify the concept that we have made. So that is what is the iterative and divergent process here. So the develop phase also brings different perspectives and creates voluminous and varied solutions, because design is a teamwork. So there are people from different backgrounds. Also we have stakeholders with their different opinions. So in the case of the water project that we have been discussing, so which involves engineers, community leaders, healthcare workers, so brainstorming sessions for the water project will result in a richer variety of ideas, and this diversity enhances the chances of developing innovative and effective solutions that we are aiming at. And use of creativity and innovation to solve problems. So, this develop phase leverages creativity and innovation to devise novel solutions to the identified problems. And we use several techniques like mind mapping, journaling. We have seen several techniques, sketching, prototyping. These are specifically used in the develop phase. So, these techniques can be used to foster creativity and come up with innovative solutions. So now let's look at some of the methods that are used in the ideation phase. So brainstorming is a team exercise where the team sits and brainstorms. So come up with different ideas in order to develop and take forward from the defined stage. So here the quantity is more important than the quality. So all types of suggestions are welcome, and we have to keep an open mind and not have any kind of biases, or shouldn't make any kind of suggestion feel like it is irrelevant. So that is the brainstorming step. Reverse brainstorming is where we identify ways to cause the problem rather than solve it. So we look at various ways in which the solution may fail. So when we are looking at it from the other perspective, then we will get to know that what all are the weak points, where all can the solution possibly fail, so we can now strengthen those points. Then body storming is physically acting out scenarios to explore how users might interact with the product or service. So this is physically, you know, taking up the activity. So like I mentioned earlier also, that if in the case of the villagers carrying 10 liters of water, so then acting it out like role playing, for example. So this is the body storming step. Then rapid ideation is a time bound activity wherein the participants quickly generate as many ideas as they possibly can. So here also we are looking at the quantity and not really at the quality. So this is a method, a creative method, where we are able to generate high volumes of ideas in a short period of time. Now the next method, which is the discussing the best and the worst ideas. So these are on the spectrum, the best idea, possible idea, and the worst idea. So we know that which is the most promising solution. And we also consider the potential pitfalls, because the best idea may not, it may be best, but maybe it is not possible to implement it. Or the worst idea is actually not really adding any value or not really adding any problem. So then we have to evaluate both the extremes, and with the help of our critical thinking, it can lead us to a more balanced approach, a well rounded approach, wherein we're able to solve the problem more effectively. The next method is Scamper method. So this method actually came about in 1950s, and over time it has, like in 1970s again it came up, and it has been used for many decades. So it shows that how relevant and how effective this method is. So this is an acronym, Scamper, which stands for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, and reverse. So this structured approach helps generate innovative ideas by encouraging different perspectives. So by, for example, eliminating a certain aspect of the, in the design stage, or modifying or putting something to another use, so we can see many different aspects of it, which will help us to come up with a better solution. And the pyramid search. So pyramid search is a method where ideas are generated and then prioritized in a hierarchical manner. So the participants who are involved in the exercise, so they come up with a lot of ideas, and then they are grouped together and they are ranked to identify the most viable solutions. And this process helps narrow down the options to the most effective solution. So prototypes are when we are developing a prototype, so which is a rough and quick portion of the design. Now it involves creating this rapid version of design which is not, a very well turned out output, but it is aimed at addressing the problem and challenges. So, and this is usually created by using low cost methods. Then physical representation of the ideas and solutions. So now this prototype serves as a physical or digital representation of the idea solution, and this helps in transforming the abstract idea that we may have into a little bit of a more tangible sort of a situation. So now something that we have, during a brainstorming session we have scribbled something down, so now we can transform it into, say, a quick, what the landing page may look like, where the image will come, where the text will come. So it gives us a very quick, uh, you know sort of an idea that how it might appear. So the next is fail quick and cheap. So the prototyping phase emphasizes the importance of failing quickly and cheaply. So by testing and iterating on low fidelity prototypes, the teams can identify quickly the flaws in the design, and they can then iterate again, make changes where required. Now, breaking larger problems into smaller chunks and test it for viability. So, the prototyping stage helps us break down the larger problem, into smaller portions so they're easier to solve by themselves. So, small aspects are easier to be taken care of as compared to when the problem is one whole chunk, it appears quite daunting. So the this is like an incremental approach where we are taking segment by segment, putting it all together, and it allows the team to focus on specific aspects of the design, and this ensures that each component functions correctly, so before it, it is integrated into the solution. And identify new challenges and issues. Now, when we are testing the prototypes, so it usually and often uncovers new challenges and issues that were not there when we, started with the process in the first place, or these problems may not be clear to us, they may not be apparent to us, but when we make a prototype, then we realize that what were the problems. So we can see, even for example around us, like all these shopping apps and other platforms, that how uh, one fine day we will see that the icon has moved, the button has moved to some other place, or the color has changed. So this is when the team is identifying that, this revamp is required, or the button is not visible. So if we identify these problems at the prototype stage itself, then after the launch of the product, the user will not struggle with, finding what they used to know, where it used to belong originally. So they will not struggle with the new format. So that is again how the prototype phase is really helpful. So some of the methods that we use in prototype phase, they are low fidelity wireframing. So this involves creating simple basic representations of a design structure and layout, and here we usually use basic lines and shapes. And the purpose of this is to focus on functionality and user flow, and the focus is not on the detailed design at this particular stage, or this element, or this method that we are using. Then sketches are hand drawn illustrations, and they capture the initial ideas and the concepts. So there's a quick process, and they enable the team to see again what was in the mind and see it out in front. So it helps communicate the ideas effectively and efficiently and very quickly as well. Now, next is the mock-up. So they are a little bit more polished, they are more detailed version of the design as compared to the wireframe. So they include visual design elements like color, typography, and images, and they resemble what the actual product will appear that we are planning to build. So mockups is another method. Then 3D modeling involves creating digital three-dimensional representation of the product using softwares and 3D printers. So this method allows designers to visualize and refine the product's shape, size. So if this is, for example, a tangible product, so if I have to design, say for example, a remote like this, then probably before I go on to injection molding and coming up with a final product, I will probably, after the sketches stage and making it with maybe a paper model or a thermocol model or a clay model, I will go on to 3D print this particular remote to see how it fits, the size of it, and whether any change is required. So this is a very helpful method as well. And then we have the physical model. So again, the 3D modeling that I gave the example of was a physical model. But in terms of a digital prototype, so again, we can achieve that as well before we roll out our, whether it is an app or a website. And again, in physical model, we have paper prototypes, 3D printing, and certain other methods. So they allow the designer, the team, to actually get a feel of the product before it is launched, and certain shortcomings or pitfalls that may be there, so they can be taken care of at this particular stage itself, so that the final product is more refined, and in the case of a physical product, it is more ergonomic and efficient. And also in case of the digital product, it is more user friendly, it has a positive user experience, and also the cognitive load is taken care of. So this brings us to the end of today's lecture, and I'll see you in the next class with the next method, which is deliver. So thank you.